In the desolate abyss of the forgotten battlefield, a cold, thick fog clung to the earth like the grip of death itself. The moon hung low, casting an eerie, sickly light that barely penetrated the murky gloom. Silence reigned, an oppressive stillness that threatened to suffocate any living thing that dared to remain. But in this place, no living souls dared to tread. This was the domain of the Death Battalion. They came with the night, emerging from the shadows like the twisted specters of a nightmare. Their faces, once human, were now pale, gaunt, and etched with the horrors of endless torment. Blood, thick and black, seeped from their hollow eyes, streaking down their sunken cheeks in rivers of agony. Their mouths, frozen in perpetual screams, emitted no sound, for their voices had long been stolen by the abyss. These cursed souls had once been men, soldiers who fought with valor and pride. But now, they were nothing more than hollow shells, vessels of eternal suffering. They wandered the battlefield, their bodies twisted and broken, their eyes wide with terror. The ground beneath them was soaked in blood, a thick, cloying substance that clung to their feet, pulling them deeper into the earth with every step. As they moved, a symphony of despair followed. The air was filled with the sound of their ragged breaths, the shuffle of their broken limbs, and the distant, echoing cries of those who had fallen before them. The cries grew louder, rising to a cacophony of wails and screams that tore at the fabric of reality itself. The sound was maddening, a relentless assault on the senses that drove even the strongest minds to the brink of insanity. The Death Battalion was not alone in this cursed place. The spirits of the dead, those who had perished in agony and fear, lingered in the shadows. They floated through the air, their ghostly forms twisted in eternal anguish. Their faces, frozen in expressions of pure terror, stared out from the darkness, their hollow eyes pleading for release. But there was no release to be found here, only more suffering, more torment. Blood, thick and black, pooled on the ground, filling the air with the stench of death. It seeped into the earth, feeding the malevolent spirits that haunted the battlefield. The ground itself seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a grotesque, festering wound that oozed with the essence of the damned. The soldiers of the Death Battalion were trapped in this hellish cycle, forced to relive their deaths over and over again. They marched endlessly, their feet dragging through the blood-soaked earth, their eyes wide with terror as they relived the horrors of their final moments. They could feel the cold steel of their weapons in their hands, the weight of their armor pressing down on them, the sharp sting of pain as their bodies were torn apart. And yet, they could not die. They were trapped in this eternal nightmare, doomed to suffer for all eternity. The Death Battalion was a force of pure terror, a manifestation of the darkest fears of mankind. They were a reminder of the horrors of war, of the bloodshed and the suffering that came with it. They were a warning to those who would dare to venture into their domain, a promise of the horrors that awaited them.